So, all you scared to death Negroes, just sit down. Don't you come out to defend our enemy. You sit down and you shut up and tell your master to come on out and deal with it.
So at this time, I have the honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this Zoom, the man for separation. And I just want to say that, students, as you look at the experiences of other college students, remember that, as someone said in their presentation, do not compare yourselves to other generations, but always be grateful for the backs that you stand on. Always be grateful for the backs that you stand on. So with that being said, I want to introduce to some of you, and those of you who are very familiar with his track record, because this brother is a mighty brother for many, many years in our nation, Brother Salih Muhammad. Raised in Oakland, California, Muhammad strives to embody the principles of service, sacrifice, and selflessness. For much of his life, he has been committed to living toward the liberation of Black people, at home and abroad. Muhammad believes that Black excellence destroys white supremacy and strives to demonstrate this excellence daily. As a high school student, Muhammad co-founded a Black student-owned operated coffee shop. Think on that. In 2009, he continued the pursuit of knowledge at the University of California, Berkeley, where he excelled as a Black student and organizer on campus. His favorite quote is from Frantz Fanon, who stated, "Each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it in relative opacity." Muhammad believes that this generation must carry the mantle of liberation towards its next peak, actualizing the visions of our ancestors. He believes this generation must practically apply the concepts of do for self and self-determination through effectively organizing systems and people. Currently, Muhammad is the executive director of the African Black Coalition, ABC, a California-based collective of Black student unions. ABC seeks to transform the Black condition by training a new crop of Black student leaders to organize our intellectual and economic resources. He is also the principal and director of the Muhammad University of Islam, which he helped to reestablish in March of 2017. You all please help me to introduce and welcome our brother from the West Coast, Brother Salih Muhammad. Praise be to Allah.
Alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you all in the green words of peace. We say it in the language of peace and paradise, our original language of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. Once again, thank you, Sister Odetta, and to all of the staff, not just for the invite, but I really want to commend and thank you for what you are doing. Dhamma Mitzvah Farrakhan has taught us that the colleges and schools of America are cesspools of filth. They are so filthy that there was a time under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad where believers would have to write the messenger about sending their children to college. And in fact, the messenger wouldn't always say yes. Sometimes he would say no. Sometimes he would disallow, particularly your daughters, from going into these filthy environments because they have a track record of turning us out and away from the truth, away from morality, away from the standard of Islam. And so I really commend the staff behind this, because the truth of the matter is we probably lose many, not probably, we absolutely lose many nation babies born and raised in Islam, but caught in the web of Satan as they get to the colleges of America. So it is so absolutely essential to have this type of program, because the fact of the matter is You all are up in an environment that is 1000% controlled by Satan. It is morally corrupt and bankrupt. It is politically and economically bankrupting us, right? So you're in an environment that really isn't designed for you to succeed as a Muslim. And the only way for us to be successful or more successful in this capacity is to have those like your staff who are here to help you along the way. You all don't know this, but we have lost generations in the colleges of America. And the reason we have lost them is because it's not easy. I went to a four-year university and I went to a PWI, predominantly white school. And I can guarantee you there was nothing easy about being a Muslim on campus. It becomes easier as you settle into your identity and become more confident and confirmed in what we believe. But getting there, I was like, what the heck is this? Do I go to the party? Do I not go to the party? Do I drink? Do I have to tell people that I don't drink? Do I have to tell them I don't smoke? Do I just smoke a little? Do I have a girlfriend? Do I not have a girlfriend? What do I tell her? Y'all know it's real. That's that real rap raw. You are in a challenging environment. It is absolutely 100% not an environment designed for us to come out successful, right? And particularly in the climate we are in, where the minister is constantly under attack. You even have to think about sometimes, do I tell them I'm in the nation? Do I defend the minister? Do I just kind of like let it roll off the shoulder? These are real challenges, right? And I don't think we have to front with ourselves about the challenges that you all face. There's a couple of things I want to say. Number one is that your Islam and your identity as a Muslim will sustain you, right? One of the things that is most important for you all to maintain is your self-perception of yourself as a Muslim. Again, you are in an environment that's constantly pressuring you. I know, I've been there, okay? It is constantly pressuring you to let go of what you have had all of your life. And it's constantly suggesting to you, reminding you in your class, from the textbook, from your friends, it's constantly suggesting and giving you an idea that maybe some things in the nation is a little outdated. Maybe some of the stuff isn't accurate, you know, like the world has evolved, you know what I'm saying? Like gay rights is cool now. Like we're a little behind, right? And I know that you all are experiencing this. So I know it because I went through it, right? And so what I want to say to you is that one of the best ways you can combat it is that you have to dive completely into being a Muslim. There's a scripture that says, no man can serve two masters. He must love one and hate the other. What that means for you all, and you're in its applicability, is that as you all are on campus, you must be totally imbibed with the identity of a Muslim. So what I did, for example, early on in my college career, when I started stepping into leadership positions, and I'll talk about that in a second. When I started stepping into leadership positions, I made it a point. I wore my student bow tie every day. You wasn't going to have a meeting with me and see me outside of the context of a Muslim. I was Brother Salih. You were going to know me as the nation man, and you were going to hear from me as the nation man, because I already understood you either have a skewed perception or no perception of who Minister Farrakhan is and who the Nation of Islam is, and somebody must offer to you a proper understanding. So I was going to hold my line, right? And it came with prices, but I tell you this, people will always respect you in the end for holding the line. You know, there was a time when Malcolm X was really interested in doing more with the civil rights movement. And the messenger told him, he said, brother, hold your position. After they get done being out there and protesting and doing all that drama, after they get done with that, they will have nothing left to do but to return to what Allah gave to his messenger, his Messiah, because that is the only solution our people have. Separation is clearly the only solution. So your job is to stand firm, hold your position. Because the truth of the matter is they will have to come to us, right? That's the truth of the matter. They will have to come to us. And so I'll give you a personal experience, right? My first year, my first semester, I had no friends. I lived off campus. I didn't know too many black folks. I had a black studies class. Don't do that. But I had a black studies class, easy A. And my group had a presentation. I forgot what it was on. I think it was on like religion in Black America. So I was like, well, I'm going hard on the nation. So I went hard. I took no prisoners. I talked about the Savior, the messenger, why we believe God is a man. And I went and held my argument, right? And afterwards, It was the most lively class I've ever been in because everybody had a question. Everybody wanted to argue. And we probably stayed in the classroom an extra 2 hours, me arguing down about the messenger's domestic life, about the Savior. Because not like people don't know these things, but you have to be in a position where you can hold our position. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and Minister Farrakhan is his extension, period. Now we can talk about it, right? Now, ultimately, what that did, ultimately, is that everybody knew, listen, don't come at the nation. Salih not gonna have that. Like, that's not gonna be tolerated in this environment. So hold your position. Now, cesspool of filth, there's a moral piece, right? How do you survive the morals? Minister Farrakhan said, good manners protect good morals. Good manners protect good morals. That means your daily behaviors have to be the type of behaviors that can protect your moral standing, okay? So for me, things I had to learn, and I'll be honest, I didn't do any of these things. I didn't do anything perfectly. I'll tell you all some things I did well and some of my strategies, okay? You are bound through relationships with the opposite sex to develop attractions at certain points. How do you protect your morality? Good manners protect good morals. What that functionally means is don't be in a room alone. That's what it means. Don't be up late night, too late, by yourselves. That's what it means. Don't hold hands. That's what it means. Why? Because nature has a natural power that can push us in a direction, and that's okay, right? The question, though, is how do you maintain what you have to the best of your ability in an environment that's not designed for you to maintain it, okay? So, and this ain't to bash on y'all. Trust me, you won't find a nation person who ain't made some kind of mistake on campus.
Right.
And I'm not here to justify your mistakes, and I don't want you to justify your mistakes. I want you to understand that you can be strategic in avoiding the mistakes, because in the long run, it's going to produce more headache and heart and painful pain in the heart, right? So, for example, right? Function, I'm going to assume y'all all Muslims, you're on the nation. Eventually, you're going to marry somebody in the nation. I'm going to say that. There is no guarantee that the person you're talking to right now in college is actually going to fall in. None whatsoever. Okay. Now you might feel like I got the juice, I'm gonna get them to fall in, they really feeling me. And I get it. They even came to the mosque, they reposted the minister. I get it, right? Now you might feel that way, but the truth is only Allah can inspire belief.
Come on.
You can't do it. You cannot inspire belief. Only Allah can. So you should avoid the eventual heartache of realizing, damn, they don't really believe the messenger is the messenger of God. They don't really believe we're the chosen people. Okay. So you want to avoid that. All right. Hold your position, hold your morality. There are challenges. Here's another tip, right? Another tip is be known as a Muslim. Okay. And make people know you as that. You're not just Salih, it's Brother Salih. And when I introduce myself in classes, it's like, my name is Salih. People that know me refer to me as Brother Salih. It's a respectful manner, blah, blah, blah. You can hold your line, okay? Good manners protect good morals. Avoid compromising situations. So that's being in rooms alone. That's also like hitting the club. That's also like going to parties. That's also like going to the kickback, which, it's not a party. It's just, we chilling at somebody's house. And I know some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Avoid the kickback, because these are environments where in one way or another, pressure is going to be exerted. Minister Farrakhan wrote in Torchlight for America, he said, if our children don't change their environment, then their environment will ultimately change them, okay? So you can control your environment, and then when you can't control the environment, you got to go hard. You got to make it be known, listen, I'm the Muslim. Because now you can hold yourself to that standard. Because black folks, if you are, black folks are real quick to say, yeah, I knew that Muslim, but he be smoking with us sometimes. They'll call us out. And they'll call you out in front of you, they'll call you out behind you. You don't want to be that one. You don't want to be the one that they get to say, yeah, I knew some Muslims, but they kind of, he did me dirty, or he was sleeping with a couple of us, or she was. You don't want to be that Muslim, okay? So hold your position. Now, next thing I want to mention is the minister referred to America's colleges and universities. There's a lecture from 1979, I believe, at Stanford University. and it's titled America's Colleges and Universities, Laboratories for the Wickedly Wise. Think about that. And what the minister said is that these campuses, in a nutshell, have become laboratories through which the wise manipulate the future trajectory of nations. They have not allowed Black people to get an education and funded HBCUs and PWIs and allowed for us to be in these places so that we can build an independent nation. They have allowed this because they understand the long game. And the long game is if I can control in small, subtle ways the minds of young Black people, then I can re-establish myself in the future. Okay? What does that mean? Bring it in practice. You will learn things on the campus, in your classes, your academic courses that are absolutely contrary to what we believe, but they won't come off as such, right? Now, I give some small examples, right? For example, you go to a science class and they're like, an astronomy class, they're like, Pluto's not a planet. That's not what we believe. That's not what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught from God himself, right? Now, does that mean you got to argue in every single class? No, but you better know. Satan's working, okay? For example, one of my first classes, again, my first semester was a sociology class. In my social class, there was a piece around how race isn't real and it's all just a social construct. And I'm assuming y'all have heard this kind of concept before, right? And I was like, that's really weird. We're all just human. Like, what? That's not what the Messenger of Allah taught us. No, he said they were created from a grafting process, period, right? Now, their race isn't real. That's true. Race as it's understood is not real. That's true. But we are an original people and we are different from you. But you go to class and say, we're 99.4% the same or something like that, right? That's the data point they have. So you have to learn that they're constantly working to teach against that which Allah and his messenger has taught us, right? Even up to some of the cultural climate around how gender and sexuality politics are transforming in the Black community, right? Gender and sexuality politics are transforming not because there's this huge spike of organic changes in Black people's perceptions. No, it's changing largely, this change is largely being driven by Black intellectuals who have gone through the laboratories of the wickedly wise. And we have the data to prove this, right? Black intellectuals, after coming out of the laboratory of the wickedly wise, right, begin to make arguments that are informed by what Satan has shaped. And you have to understand, the minister said, the ultimate aim of this world is to kill the messenger of Allah. When they develop these constructs that are shifting the way our people think around baseline interactions and relationships like gender and sexuality, the ultimate aim of it is actually to place our people and the believer at opposition to what the messenger has already taught us. So Allah says ABC about homosexuality, but the academy says actually blah, 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 blah. And now you have a choice. Do you side with what the academy says? Because the academy is supposed to be a critical thinker. Or are you able to interrogate and develop your own analysis to be on the side of what God has ordained? Because the truth is, what God has taught always is, always has been, and always will be. That's true. But how do you articulate that now? How do you argue that? How do you debate that? How do you hold your position? You have to study. You try to put some time in to learning how to defend the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because while you are in college, mark my words, you will be challenged, and the challenges will increase. How will you hold the line around anti-Semitism? How will you hold the line around homophobia? How will you hold the line around misogyny and misogynoir? This is what they call our minister. How will you be able to defend? You absolutely have to study. But again, laboratories of the wickedly wise. What that means is that the overwhelming majority of what you are taught is going to be biased toward making our people enslaved more and longer. The majority of what you're going to be taught is going to be riddled or is going to be truth laced with falsehood, meaning there'll be some bit of truth of it, but it'll be a larger construction of falsehood that's really designed to deceive you specifically, okay? In this lecture, the minister specifically talked about Black studies. And I think it applies for many of our social studies departments, even many of our scientific studies departments. And he talks about how Black academics of all fields have become Black pacifiers, I want you to think about how often in your classes have the professors mentioned the role of the nation, the minister, and the messenger. How is it that classes can teach about Black history and Black people and not mention the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam? And you should be the one in the class like, excuse me, I'm sorry, you're talking about Black power. Did Elijah Muhammad have anything to do with that? I'm sorry, you're talking about Black veganism. Did Elijah Muhammad have anything to do with that? Because they absolutely will continue to write him out of the history. But you should be the one that's in the class like, oh, y'all are missing something. Why is this part missing? Nobody knows that it was the Nation of Islam that gave prisoners constitutional rights? Oh, you didn't know that? Let me teach you about it. Oh, you didn't know that it was the Nation of Islam that allowed for Americans not to go to war? Oh, that's not in your history class and you're covering the 60s? How is that possible, professor? And you don't have to do it in a disrespectful way. You just make the suggestion. And really, you can just ask the question, professor, did the Black Muslims have anything to do with this? Black academics have become pacifiers for the enemy, where their role has become more to make Black people satisfied with a particular way of getting free. And the only route that many of our professors teach, go instead, look at it, go ask your professors. The only route that many of our professors will teach will be learn to argue policy, learn to get a job, and learn to try to make America better. They are not teaching separation. They're not teaching we need a nation of our own. They're not teaching the white man is the devil. They're not teaching this is an enemy that you cannot convince. This is not what they're teaching. That's your job, though. Your job is to be the voice crying out in the wilderness. I'm sorry, everybody. Y'all are missing something. Here, I think this will be the last point I'll make. The minister talked about not becoming intellectual capitalists. And what that means is when you think about capitalism as a construct, capitalism is this economic construct where wealth is hoarded by the few at the top while the masses remain poor. And this has also happened intellectually, where intelligence and knowledge has been hoarded at the top and kept away from the masses, okay? Historically, for example, for a long time, the Bible was something that was only allowed to be read by a select few in Europe. Wasn't available to the masses. The experience of a college education and the knowledge we receive there is something that has been held by a select few Black people at the top, but it has not been distributed and disseminated to benefit the masses of Black people. Do not be an intellectual capitalist. Now, you have the highest, most profound piece of knowledge, which is supreme wisdom. Don't be a capitalist. Use your supreme wisdom to teach the masses of our people wherever you are. If you are on campus, you should not be a no-name. My humble opinion. This is my opinion. My opinion is cream rises to the top. I refuse to be on campus and not be in leadership positions. I refuse to be on campus and not be somebody that was calling the shots. And by Allah's grace permission, by the end of my term on campus, I was the one calling the shots, 100%. And I'm not saying that in a place of arrogance, right? I'm saying that in a place of, you can do this. Go find an organization that you want to be a part of on campus and go run that organization. Go, you have supreme wisdom. Go and lead. Go and guide. Be an extension of our Father, who is a leader, teacher, guide, and father to the world. That's our responsibility. That's our task. That's our challenge. Go, don't just be a follower. Don't just go along to get along. Don't just join the fraternities and sororities. If you're gonna be in a frat or a sorority, you better be in leadership. Don't be in them just so you can have the social life. No, sir, no ma'am. Be in leadership. Direct our people, guide our people. That's our responsibility. What is the duty of the civilized man? Except to teach the uncivilized, right? That is our duty, our responsibility. That is our challenge. So as young college students, I want to encourage you, do not be an intellectual capitalist. Don't keep that supreme wisdom you have and keep it booked off on a shelf in your mind somewhere and nobody ever hears from you about it. No, you should be working to share that supreme wisdom with anybody and everybody that you can find. And there's ways to do it, there's techniques to do it, absolutely, but it must be done. When I left the campus, and I went to a PWI, so this wasn't easy. When I left the campus, the school newspaper had a feature on me as one of the outstanding graduates that changed the shape of the campus. And I'm sharing that with you. I'm genuinely sharing that with you only to suggest you really can be a star. You can be a star on your campus. You can be one of those that our people can look to, say, I can trust that brother, that sister. That's the nation man or woman. I can trust them. They have led us correctly. All right. Now you'll come up with battles, you come up with opposition. But Allah ensures and guarantees that we'll be the winners in the end. So I think I touched everything. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think I touched everything. I don't know if you all want to take questions or anything, but thank you so much for the opportunity. And I pray to Almighty Allah that I said something that was relevant, that touched you all in some kind of way. Please maintain your Islam. It is difficult, it's a challenge.
Praise be to Allah. I don't know if we want to put the questions in the chat room or if we want to open up the mic. Sister Courtney, you can make that decision. But you all please help me give him a well-deserved round of applause representing our Islam, Brother Salih. You make a mother's heart so warm. You make an auntie's heart so warm. The ancestors, they call it turning in their grave. You just got the ancestors turning in their grave because you've given us the hope of understanding of tomorrow. So I thank you, Brother Salih, from the bottom of my heart. And I pray that for each student, as I said at the opening, the purpose of all of this is to increase your devotion. Increase your devotion to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad through Minister Louis Farrakhan. And once you've increased your devotion and you are grounded in that devotion, you are now ready to be a college student. All right? So all praise is due to Allah. Sister Courtney, how are we going to manage these questions? Sister Dawn, how are we going to manage the questions? Do we want to unmute and ask Brother Salih a question? You're getting a lot of cheers in the chat. All praise is due to Allah. Let's ask him any question you want. What you saying, Sister Courtney?
It can be either way. I mean, I have the lines open, the way for people to unmute themselves, or they can put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Sister Jasmine. I have one question about the last part you stated about different techniques. What are some of the techniques that you use to kind of make yourself known and be powerful and to teach? Because when I'm in campus, I teach people around my classmates, but I do want to do more. Me and my sisters, we go to the same college, and we do want to do more to show who we are, basically.
Yeah. What college is it?
Clayton State University.
Okay. Is that HBCU?
No.
Okay. All right. So if it's not a HBCU, I would find out if there's a Black student union. If there is, I'd immediately get involved, get active, and I don't want to say publicly position yourself for leadership, but I would get involved, get active, and start pushing the line around what Black students and Black people should be doing. If there's not a Black student union, I'd find that any Black organization that is popular on campus, and I'd get involved, get active, talk to them, start making recommendations, show up, be there. When I was on campus, like I was always in the Black spaces, and I made it a point. I didn't even go to the non-Black spaces because not until my senior year. My senior year, I became a multicultural leader, or I led many different communities, right? But initially, every Black space there was, I was there. Every function that wasn't like a party, but like every event, every program, I was there. Anytime there's a dialogue or discussion, I was there. So just put yourself in more spaces of influence, okay? I think the last thing I might say is think about getting into student government if you have the capacity, because from there, you can probably build a profile from yourself in some way.
So Brother Salih, because you really described a very active life on campus, how were you able to balance your social activities with Black organizations? And I know you went to UC Berkeley. That wasn't no easy academics. How did you balance the two?
Nah. The honest answer is I chose a bad major. It's the honest answer. I created my own major, and I studied race and law in the United States. Back then, I was thinking about being a lawyer. I since neglected that. If I went back, I would still choose my own major, but it would be more like organizational management. I think that's where I ended up learning more of my skill set and passions aligned with. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is dumb luck. Allah bless me in some ways, if I'm being really honest. I made good relationships with professors for the most part. I was able to get a decent number of Black professors, and when I didn't have one, I made it known that I wasn't an average student. So in class, I was always very vocal, very, very discussion based, very engaged, and always at the top level of engagement. You talking about the impact law had on society, I was going to break it down on a different level because I was coming from the teachings. So I tried to be very vocal in the classroom so that, because I knew I wasn't all the way, I knew my focus was probably more so on activism, Black students, and engagement than on my academics. Now, certain majors, if you're a STEM major, you may not be able to do it in that way, but there's strategies, right? One strategy is being very vocal in class. The other strategy is, depending on what class it was, I made sure to go to office hours. So I really tried to develop some kind of dynamic with the faculty so that it can be understood, like, A, I'm not your average student. B, I have these other things I'm doing, right? So it was one year, for example, maybe my third year or something, I missed my final exam for a class, which is like, what are you doing? But I missed it because I went to the state capitol with the chancellor. We got the chancellor to go to the state capitol with us, I should say. And so when I hit the professor, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Is there any way I can do this later? And it ended up working out where I wrote it the next semester. I wrote the final paper instead of a midterm, I did a paper the next semester. So that relationship you develop with your faculty can be really important. The other thing I would say is I knew my capacity. Right? And I knew, and what I mean by that is, like, I wrote one of my theses. I did 2 theses undergrad, and I wrote one of them literally in 48 hours, and I stayed up probably for 35 hours and wrote and passed it, and did fine on it. I don't recommend that, right? But I knew my capacity. I knew I can crank this out if I really need to. I have a strong writing skill set, and so a lot of my classes were writing and reading heavy. So I went that route.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you for your honesty and your candidness. Because I know that for many students with STEM, for example, majors, that the academics is really important. I have a history of a takeover at Morris Brown College, my alma mater, and I was very, very passionate about the reasons why we took over the administration building for 3 days. But after the 3 days of lockup and all the cameras and everything else, the students still wanted to protest. I said, look, my mama didn't pay for me to come here to flunk out. So the reality of the protest had to take a second seat to the academics that I came there for. So I wanted to definitely see how you balance all of that, because you have such a wonderful history of leadership throughout your college years. So thank you for sharing what you've shared.
The other thing I would say is I came to a point where I understood I can't miss class unless I can't miss class unless it's absolutely necessary. And so I came to a point where it's like, I'm not gonna miss class for all these random meetings. There was like a time where it's like I was just in so many meetings, I would miss class. And so I came to a point where it's like, listen, I can't miss class because I know I'm going to have to miss class later. So let me be really on top of everything so that when I do have to miss Savior's Day, Day of Atonement, bringing the minister, whatever, when I do have to miss, it's like, oh, he's not here, but it's like, but he's usually here. Type thing.
Open mic question?
In the chat.
You gotta go in the chat.
Your question in the chat, yeah.
You can open it up. Go ahead. Go ahead, ask your question.
Oh, I didn't have a question. It was just a comment, because you really said some things that like really helps college students, and it's like really relevant, I would like to say, because we all go through these challenges in school, and we have to figure out ways to go through it. And then sometimes we may not have the specific person to go to with these problems. You go to your friends, but we're also going through the same thing. So it's really good to hear from someone who's been through the process and ultimately knows what comes after all else, which is Islam. So thank you for being on here and, giving us your time, because you gave some key information, inspired me to just go tweet something that you said because it's real cool. I just want to share that information that I got.
Praise Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Absolutely.
I like to say something. I think I met Brother Salih when I was first coming into the nation, and he's younger than me, just a little bit. But and when he's speaking, it kind of brings me back to the time when I was coming in, because it was a few of us, me, him, Brother Troy, and it like kind of agreeing with Sister Nalis is that it helped me remain focused. And when you have, even though I was in school in North Carolina, they were out in Cali, but it's still us communicating online. This is before the real rise of Facebook, things like that. And it just helped us, that connection. And we were just we had like, I think at one point we were doing like a study group online. Remember that, Brother Salih? It was just different things that we were doing to help each other remain focused and still represent our Islam. And it's hard. It's hard. I mean, even as an adult, it's still difficult. But in college, because you're constantly 24/7, if you're on campus, you're constantly in an environment that's, like you said, not conducive for a Muslim, so it was just, kind of good hearing Brother Salih. It just took me back to when I was in school. So kudos to you, Brother Salih.
Kudos. All right, one last question. Who wants to ask the last question?
I had a question. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Salih.
Alaikum
I was wondering, considering you were in college and you had so many studies to kind of keep up with, what was kind of your way of, I guess, keeping up with that while still doing the research you needed for of this teachings and just studying up on that as well? That's
a great question. That's a really good question. I wasn't able to study as much as I wanted to in college. I couldn't go to the mosque. I didn't go to the mosque a ton. In some years, like I didn't make the mosque too much at all. I was busy. I was honestly just really tied down. So here's my functional tip. Whenever the opportunity is there, tie your studies into your study of the teachings. So like what I would do, like if I had a paper on like prisoner rights, right? I'm looking for how did the nation influence this? If I had a paper on, I think my first year I had a paper on like education. And so my paper, I wrote mine on Black Independent Educational Centers. And of course, I got to talk about MUI. Or if I wrote some other papers, like my thesis, one of my senior theses, I wrote on Black Jesus, right? And so whenever and wherever you can, right, I would try to find ways that you can incorporate your study, or you can incorporate the nation's beliefs, history, et cetera, into the studies you're doing, right? If I'm in STEM and, I took a nutritional science class, for example, right? It had nothing to do with my major. It was like, it could give me one of my general electives. And my nutritional science class, I was most definitely going to write about about one meal a day.
That's right. How to eat to live. That's
so
right.
I think depending on the class, right? Think about how do you incorporate what we believe into your academic writing. And I will say that's very important skill set for you to develop. One of the things the devil does very well is that the devil has tons of scholars and academics. They've always had them to justify the evil that they do, right? When slavery was happening, they had scholars and PhDs and academics that were writing why this was what they called a, quote, positive good theory. They had scholars and academics that wrote papers and published them, PhDs and PhD candidates that published papers saying that there should be broken windows policing, and saying that the police should be harder on crime, and saying that the war on drugs is justified. It's scholars and academics that are the neoconservatives that push the war in Iraq, right? And so there's a way your scholarship can take the form of always defending the position that we have in any way that you can, right? There's geneticists that are out there. Matter of fact, let's look at genetics, right? Genetics as a field comes out of eugenics, where it was their scholars trying to defend why the white race is supreme. So there's always a way, right? They'll try to tell you scholarship isn't biased, but scholarship always has a perspective and an opinion. you shouldn't be ashamed or feel weird about making your scholarship about the divine perspective and opinion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his minister.
Thank you.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Salih, I know, Brother Salih, I know I said one last question, but I do want to ask you about your perception, because now you're past the years of college. How should our college students be utilizing social media?
That's a great question. Defend the minister, to be honest. That's the energy I'm on right now. Right now, my energy, if I'm being really honest, is we are in the hour of betrayal, the hour of Gethsemane. And in that hour, there's a man named Peter who pulled a sword to kill the enemies of Jesus. If we are in that hour, my question is, where are all the Peters? Now, as college students, you have to be uniquely positioned to defend, because you in some ways might have more acquaintances and friends that are not in the house, not Muslims. So you really have to figure out how you're going to defend the position, because many will be silent in the days, months coming. So you really have to learn and prepare yourself to defend that position. That's the first thing I would say, is that, man, the devil, Satan, hates us. And so you should always be defending and holding down our position. I think the second thing I would say is, if you can find a way, and somebody told me this when I had a mentor tell me this when I was an undergrad and I didn't do it. Find a way to make some money. Find a way to develop some income streams. It sounds weird, it sounds off, but it'd be a really good experience for you right now if you just figured out how to make an extra $200 a month. That would be great. Now you can do that on social media. You can use that. You use your various skill sets. But I'm talking about like a non-job, just something you're doing for yourself. I think that'd be the second thing that I'd say. And I guess one more thing. The third thing I would say is, use your platform to beautify Islam. Our people have a lot of misconceptions about us a lot of times. Y'all are beautiful, you're young, you're attractive by means of your youth. It would be good for us to find ways to represent the teachings of the messenger and the minister. And I guess the last thing I'll say, because I think we're getting off, I'm more than happy to be supportive, to be a support player for any of you all. If anybody ever needs me, Sister Odetta has my contact information, and you all can reach out anytime, and I'll be more than happy to support in any way, shape, or form. And you have a nation full of folks that have been college educated, to be honest. So I want to encourage that.
Praise be to Allah. Let's give the brother another round of applause. Again, thank you, Brother Salih. Just warm my heart. Praise be to Allah. Did we not enjoy Sister Audrey? Do you all think you all received some exercises that can de-stress you and get you to your wusa? Praise be to Allah. And what about that decision about virtual or online? How do you all feel about that? Do you feel like you can really give yourself some quiet time to think about what you really need to do, as he talked about the influences of not even being there among your own people and that type of pressure? So you have a lot to contemplate. And in particular, you have a lot to contemplate concerning COVID. Remember, it's only for a short time, and we are following divine guidance. And so as long as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has asked us to be safe, I want you all to be safe and not be concerned about what, in fact, the world is telling us we can do and not do. We have divine guidance. So with that being said, we are going to just prepare again for a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Demand for Separation Summit. We may have to change up the teams and do this defense, or we may just help you to influence this team that you got now. We don't know. But stay tuned, because I know that the school year is about to open up. So you all go in the name of Allah. Remember him every single day when you wake up and before you go to bed. Whether you are making rak'ahs or du'as, just remember Allah, and he will guide you through every situation that you experience. So we love you. And as Sister Audrey said when she opened up, this is an expression to let you know that you are loved. So on behalf of the Parent Engagement Alliance team, Sister Dawn Wave, Sister Mecca, Sister Anita, Sister Nicola, and our extraordinaire IT, Sister Courtney, woohoo! We thank you all, and we will now close out in prayer with Brother Taki. If you can unmute your mic, we will close out in prayer.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Position of prayer. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Praise be to Allah. You beautiful students, may Allah bless you as we greet each other with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.